didn't write your resume, but civil rights made somebody read your resume.
Tour the website, check out what's happening in all of our different areas across the country. A lot of action going on. You can visit our photo gallery to actually get caught up on some of the shots of actions that have been happening. And of course, we always invite you to take action by becoming a member and giving. And that's on our website, nationalactionnetwork.net. We're back, brothers and sisters. You're listening to the National Action Network Saturday Action Rally, coming to you live on WLID 1190 AM in New York. We're streaming to you across the country on a number of platforms, including Facebook and nationalactionnetwork.net. We're live right here in the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street. Call somebody. Tell them the action is on the air. Right now, brothers and sisters, I want you to get on your feet at home. Put your hands together for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
What do we want?
Justice.
What do we want?
Justice.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
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 Fist bump the person next to you, tell them you love them. National Action Network Change Ensemble, give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally. For you that are here in the House of Justice at 106 West 145th Street in the village of Harlem, and for you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York, or you that are watching live stream around the country, and we'll be on Impact TV nationwide in a few moments. We're happy to be with you another Saturday morning to give our report on where the action is. Give a hand our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. And of course, our musical director, give a big hand, Minister Tyrone Richards. Want to also ask you to give another hand to our inspirational speaker this morning, Reverend Jessica Baxter. Many of you don't know, I listen on the radio first hour, and Reverend Batson is one of them that makes me rethink what I'm going to talk about. I had a whole nother way I was going this morning, and she messed me up, and we got into Hebrews and come and messed up my whole thing. Give her another hand, Greg. Let me say this, and I want to get into what Jenny and Ava had come and Wes came about, but I want to announce first that we are going to be giving meals here on Thanksgiving. Not for your clap now. We're not having meals like we usually do on Thanksgiving. We will be handing out prepackaged meals to people that need a Thanksgiving dinner. We will be here from 11:30 to 3 on Thanksgiving Day. What we've done since there has been a National Action Network, one of the things that I am most proud of is that we will be 30 years old next March. And as we round the 29th year, every Thanksgiving and every Christmas, on that day, we have fed people. That is how I spend Thanksgiving and Christmas. My daughters still don't forgive me that they do not have any Christmas or Thanksgiving anywhere but handing out food. And they're gonna do it this year too. And my grandson, if he old enough, he's gonna be 2 years old next month, he's old enough to try to play with the drums, he's gonna be old enough to hand out some drumsticks. One of the things, and that is why I liked what Sister Batson preached about, is building sustained organizations. And so we do that and continue to do it. I also want you to know we're going to be doing it in our Atlanta office on Tuesday, November 24th. You that are watching from the Atlanta chapter, at our office there, 632 Peoples Street. And we are posting all this on our website. Out of our 106 chapters now, most of them do that on the holidays. And I'm proud of that. One of the things that strike me, I went yesterday, let me also say that we are certainly giving our condolences again to the family of Hester Snipes, who passed, the mother-in-law of Eric Garner. And we went, when I was riding to do speak at the services yesterday, and I came back, the driver that was driving me yesterday doesn't live in Brooklyn. One of my classmates come every Saturday rally, so we know nooks and turns in Brownsville that the navigator won't tell you about. The navigator didn't have to run up the alleys we had to run up. Let's welcome, we're live now, Impact Television, our Impact TV family. And as I was riding back, I was thinking about how, as I was coming down Certain Street, heading to the bridge, but we were coming down toward Marcy Avenue, I thought about every Saturday morning, I would get the bus from Brownsville to come to Bethany Baptist Church for the Saturday morning breadbasket rally. I was about 13 years old. I was youth director, appointed by Reverend William Jones, Jenny's father, and Reverend Jesse Jackson. And then that is where we got the Saturday rallies from, when we went in later into the Slave Theater with UAM, and then I brought it to Harlem when we started at Pierce 175 for 29 years. We met every Saturday morning. And one of the things, even though the developers doing a whole thing on this block, and we negotiated to have our International Civil Rights Museum here and all, I told them Nan is going to stay on the ground, because I do not want, one of the things that is so important is that we do not see movements as a monolith, that we all do different things our way toward the same goal. And this week we had a conference call, Zoom call, with the heads of some of the national civil rights groups, Mark Morial, who Ava works with, and Derek Johnson, NAACP, and Sherilyn Ifer, Legal Defense Fund, Melody Campbell. And we do direct action, church-based organizations. That's what we do. We grew out of SCLC. Other groups do other things. It doesn't make anybody right or wrong. It means that we all do what we do to support the whole. So when we had the March on Washington this August, Mark and them came and supported it, told their chapters to come. Nan was out front. Mark goes and does something in training and all. We back up Mark's out front. If you got to be the belle at every prom, you're going to end up with no date at all. And we must learn the history of all that we come from. So when I'm here every Saturday morning, I was raised in that by her father. Fellowship Hall at Bethany was where we used to have Saturday morning rallies. And my job, because I was a boy preaching and get up screaming and hollering and riling people up, I was the warm-up act for her father. He would sit in his office, Alfred, you go down there and get him excited. But it was training for me to learn how to do what we do. So when you got all of that operating in sync, that is when we're at our best. Now, in doing that, we have a summer of discontent, or we have a summer of progress. We can choose which one we want. Some folks are addicted to just motion. Others learn how to do movement. There is a difference between motion and movement. I told y'all a couple months ago, I had a friend of mine in his office. I was talking to him on the phone. He said, just a minute. I hear something outside. They're marching. Let me go join the march. I'll call you back. I said, what they marching about? He said, I don't know. He just jumping in the march because they marching. They might have been marching on him. But there's some of us addicted to motion. Why am I saying that? When we have dealt probably as much and more than any group on police killings, it is to lead to police solutions. If you're not leading to a solution, don't play with our people. Don't get our people all riled up if you know you're not leading to solve what it is you rallying them up about. Why am I saying that? When we marched, I was looking last night at some of the tapes when Dr. Jamal Watson had the 50-year assessment of my activism from being a teenager till, 2017. Jennifer was there at Columbia University, and Jesse Jackson and all of them that helped mentor me came and spoke. And you were there, Gwen Carr. And one of the things that struck me was that Maya Wiley, who wasn't running for mayor then, she said on the panel that in '89, we had documented racial profiling in New Jersey. But it took Nan and Reverend Sharpton to come a couple of years later and close down the turnpike because of the profiling. And the direct action made them therefore deal with it, and now there are laws against racial profiling. Now some of y'all were there that day, went to jail with us. I was arrested, we all went to jail, closing down the turnpike. Half of y'all that went to jail with me wouldn't know how to write the legislation. But you know how to dramatize the need for legislation. Everybody got a role. Why am I saying that? When we dealt with Eric Garner, her son, choked to death here in New York, that night I talked to Gwen. I was in Nevada getting ready to get on a plane to come back, and she told me she wanted me involved. Gwen told me how she wanted it done. I told her, it was a Thursday night. I told her, y'all be at the House of Justice Saturday, and we're going out to Staten Island that day. We had buses lined up, people couldn't even get in here, and we went out there and started Eric Garner movement. Now, we started that going toward legislation that would make it enforceable with police policy, but then law. So they had a police policy against chokeholds, but there was no law. And we kept fighting to get law. Couldn't get it. 6 years later, before we could even get Pantiello fired from the police department. That's the facts. But we kept going. Because movements is not about a quick motion. Y'all keep having these thrills rather than these movements. That's why some of y'all get jammed up now. Y'all living life full of thrills. What fit, turns you on. You don't even know if you got the right girlfriend or boyfriend unless y'all put some time in. One guy got so disgusted he come with a song, "The Thrill Is Gone." I don't know who he was singing to, but she got the message. I got distracted. Don't play that. Where I'm going with this is that as God would have it, 6 years later, after Pantiello's fired, in a resurgence of the question of policing, George Floyd happened. Some folk had stopped marching. Some folk had stopped going to City Hall. Some people had stopped advocating. Ava kept advocating. When it wasn't fashionable, she was still talking to Gwen Carr. Jenny down at the Federation was still dealing with these issues. Still doing my radio show every Thursday, now doing it every Sunday morning on Open Line. Westmore never stopped. Always on MS, always dealing, even when he went to Robin Hood Foundation. Never knowing George Floyd was going to happen. If you're consistent, you don't know what's going to happen. All you know is you got to keep being consistent. George Floyd happened. Ben Crump called me, family wanted us to go down there. I looked at the tape. First thing hit me when I heard George Floyd say, "I can't breathe." I said, he's saying the exact same words that Eric said. Eric was on tape, "I can't breathe," 11 times. George Floyd on tape, "I can't breathe," calling his mama who was already dead. I called a couple of people I know. Now we're in the middle of the pandemic now when George Floyd happened. Not going out the house. I was going from the office to the house, TV studio, back to office house, because I knew everybody in there and had a mask for everybody. And social distance, everything else. Now, I called Gwen Carr and said, "Gwen, they called me about this police killing in Minneapolis, George Floyd." She said, "Yeah, I saw it." I said, "Remind me of your son." I called a black billionaire, Robert Smith, who supports National Action Network. And he told me if we want to go, because the families asked me, he would send us his private plane to take us. Won't nobody be on the plane but me and you and the pilots, and who travels with me. I forget which one of the brothers went. James went with us. She said, all right. And I said, they COVID test the pilots before we get on. Because both of us was not traveling. I wasn't going on no commercial flights. She said, all right. We flew down on his plane, did a vigil right where George Floyd had been choked. Hundreds of people came out. We made them distance, met with them in the church, flew back. I went back and did the funeral, flew back, and came back into Houston to do his final funeral. I wore Smith's plane out. I guess he ain't never gonna give me the plane back. I was flying like it was my plane. I got used to, well, call the pilot, tell him I'll be an hour late. In the fervor of that happening, then Breonna Taylor happens. Ahmaud Arbery happens. Rashid Brooks happened. All in a month. One right after another. People start marching all over the world. I'm turning on television, CNN and MSNBC. They're marching in Paris, they're marching in Germany about people here. So somebody asked me, why do you think that there's such a reaction now that we didn't see before? Well, thousands marched consistently in New York around Eric. But the reason it went even more global and sustained is, again, as I said, it was in the middle of a pandemic where there was no sports being played, no football, no baseball, no basketball. You had no distractions. So all you could do was watch the news, hoping they would tell you they got a vaccine, hoping they could tell you you can go to work tomorrow, hoping they could tell you your kids can go to school that's in the house driving you crazy. And by watching it over and over and over, it impacted people that had never been impacted before. Y'all following me? In that resurgence and in that energy, the Ava Rices and the Mark Morials nationally, all of us in NAN, could then go back in and get laws that we couldn't get 6 years ago. So, Andrew Cuomo worked with Speaker of the Assembly, Carl Hastie, and worked with our Queen in the state Senate. Our state senator, who heads Andrea Stewart Cousins, to pass a law against the chokehold. And to their credit, named it the Eric Garner Law. In the time of George Floyd, New York State got the Eric Garner Law. In the law, made it illegal in the state of New York to have chokeholds by police. Illegal about 58, which Jenny was talking about this morning. The law, it was out of the state law that we are now advocating the George Floyd federal law, policing injustice. In the George Floyd federal law, that's what we marched about in Washington. 208,000 of us. August 28. Two things we wanted Westmore was we wanted the George Floyd Policing and Justice Act passed, wanted the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed. Because demonstration without legislation will not lead to reconciliation. We are not just running around here exercising. We are dramatizing towards solutions. This ain't no Jack LaLanne exercise class. We ain't marching for our exercise. I work out every morning. I don't need a march to stay in shape. We march to shape up a country. So in signing the Eric Garner bill, Cuomo invites Gwen Carr, Mother Eric Garner, invites the mother Sean Bell, has the Speaker and the Majority Leader Senate, gave me the first pen, and said if it wasn't for the movement, we wouldn't be doing this. And by the way, we need to hear from the people on what we need to do further and hand me back a report. That is what they are doing. So you have the context of what they're doing. So when Jenny stands up here on a Saturday morning in the tradition of her dad and says we don't work for the city, we working with them, but we working for y'all. It is not only working for y'all, it is a process that we started. And I want to make that clear live on radio, because all you thousands of people, you get distracted because you got the police unions on one side. That's mad talking about what does this mean? And why they doing this? And then you got your super Negro supermen that fly from leaping buildings in a single bound. What? Up in the sky. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's super Negro. He comes in only when there's a tragedy. And you don't see them no more. Don't pass no legislation. Don't help nobody. Just super Negro. See something on the news and put his cape on and jumps in the middle of a march he didn't call. They will be the ones questioning them because they were not part of the process that understands what they're about. We don't need no town hall meeting to hear from the people. Well, the opposite is you say you never hear from the people. So which way you gonna have it? Like I was at a friend of mine's house, and he's mad at his son. Told his son, go to your room. Shut up. Don't say nothing. I don't hear nothing you got to say about whatever it is he did. Boy went to go to his room and say, you see it? You don't even explain why you did. I told him. You just told him to go to his room and shut up. We want the input of the people on the ground so that the recommendations that come to came from them touring and talking to the people on the ground. I remember when I went to jail on Vieques, did 90 days in jail. And I remember a guy told me in jail, everybody in jail wanted to talk to me while I was in jail. And I ain't had no appointment secretary. I'm locked up. Anybody want to talk, just let talk. It ain't like I had nothing else to do. Warden used to come to me, Wes, and say, we have this reporter like to interview you. I said, let me die. They finally about the 5th day, I do 90 days. 5th day they came, we have this. I said, let me tell y'all something. Whoever want to see me, if it's a kid in the 6th grade doing their book report, I agree. Anything get me out this cell, I will meet with them. Don't even ask me, say yes. And I remember one guy said to me, they set me up, Rev Mal. They did me wrong. And I'm thinking about protesting. I'm not getting a lawyer. I'm doing nothing. I ain't even going to tell them to take me to court. What do you think? I said, I think you're going to be a long time. That's what I think. Now, you do what you want. I'm with it, you know, at least until I get out of here, me and you, brother. But I want all the lawyers I can get and bring me to court early. So I want us to really take this moment to really legislate. Every generation, every era has its challenges to solve. One of the things that must happen in this time is we must redefine and reimagine policing. The challenge in the 50s and the 60s was Jim Crow and public accommodations. Then in the 60s on into the 70s and 80s was voting rights. Every generation has to face something. There are always the economic issues. There are always the issues that supersede others. But the spark in these times, and we've been on it a long time, has been the question of how we're going to police. So fast forward, we got mobilized around an election this year. One of the things that defined this election was an energy that came out of the Black Lives Matter movement with George Floyd and others, where we were able to help to convince people that not only must we march, we must vote. Donald Trump, and I'm saying this now, Wes and Arva and Jenny not saying this because they're nonpartisan, so they're not even saying amen to y'all that ain't watching on television. I'm saying it. Donald Trump ran on a pro-police no matter what issue. The evidence of that is the night before our big march was the night he was at the White House accepting the Republican nomination. Y'all remember that? Had all the folk out there and he come out and he did the whatever because they couldn't do the Republican convention. But they had all these people at the White House with no mask on. One of the people that spoke that night was the head of the Patrolman Benevolence Association in New York. He was on the program. 2 or 3 speakers before Trump. Trump said we need national stop and frisk. We were part of, even all of us, part of the stop and frisk marches and stopped it here in New York. We got Biden and Harris to publicly deal with the issues of policing. Joe Biden flew to Houston and met with the George Floyd family and I the day before the funeral and did a video. It's on our National Action Network website about police brutality. Kamala Harris has been here for the last 12 years, every year at our convention talking about this issue. This must now translate into making federal law like we made it state law in New York. So when last Saturday morning rally, we was here, I come out about 11:30, signed your books, got in the car about 1:30, headed downtown, no, about 12:30. President MSNBC called me on cell phone, can you go FaceTime right now? I said, yeah, what happened? They just called the election for Joe Biden. So they had the folk in the studio, me back here, talking about what it meant. Finally, after all of us was happy to celebrate all of that, Hardy and I get in the car and I'm headed downtown. Phone ring is Kamala Harris. And Kamala said to me, I just want to thank you for all y'all did, and I'm with it, I'm going to keep commitment. Talked about 10, 15 minutes. Before she went to make her acceptance speech last night. And I said to her, and we going to meet by what do they call it, Zoom. Dominique been teaching me Zoom. I've been telling folk that I'm on a boom call. When we had the boom box, so I thought y'all was having a boom call. It's Zoom, boom, whatever call we gonna have. We gonna have it with, don't laugh, Hardy's still using flip phone. He don't know boom or Zoom. We gonna have a Biden this week. We must push legislation on a federal level. We cannot keep waiting on people to get killed to deal with this issue. There's something wrong that it takes us a tragedy to mobilize. Now, don't underestimate the opposition. 71 million people voted for Donald Trump. 71 million people had no problem with his racism, with his bigotry, with his xenophobia, with his homophobia, with his sexism. 71 million people. A friend of mine said more people voted for Joe Biden than ever voted in the history of the country. That's right. But the second highest vote getter in the history of the country was Donald Trump. Which means that you're going to have to be disciplined, focused, and strategic. They're having a million MAGA march in Washington today, where they're expecting tens of thousands to come and support Trump. And Trump talking about he may come by and say hello. We had 200,000. He didn't come by and say hello to us. But we were there to say goodbye to him. But we must hold Biden and Harris accountable. We didn't elect them because we liked them. We elected them because we like ourselves. I told Joe Biden, I told Kamala Harris, I tell Nancy Pelosi, if y'all win the election the next day, I'm going to be right on your doorstep. Because that's what we do. I don't want to be in nobody's cabinet. I was very close with working with Barack Obama. He's been right here in this room, been to our convention. As president, he came twice. They couldn't get over Air Force One coming to New York to a land convention. But I never asked for a job or patronage for a friend, none of that. Because our job is to continue the direct action movement. Dr. King said there are two types of leaders. There are temperature leaders and thermostat leaders. Temperature leaders are those that go in and can read the temperature in the room and know what to do. And then there are thermostat leaders. They go and change the temperature in the room. We are out of the thermostat tradition. That's why we try to work together in national leadership. Some of the temperature guys can tell us, well, this ain't going well. Then they'll call me in to turn the heat up. That's what you do. Ain't nothing wrong with people now getting a job from Biden and Harris. That's just not our role. They need to have some of us on the cabinet, some of us in the Justice Department, some of us in the State Department. That's just not our job. You can't have access without being inside. And we got to understand and support those we put inside. There are things that I don't need to do, but I need Jenny to do, or Ava to do. There are meetings and rooms that West can go in, I can't go in. But I need to empower him to go in. But if we outside calling them sellouts, then who gonna put us on the agenda? We, right now, have a runoff in Georgia, January 5th. That will determine the Senate majority or minority. Everybody watching us on Word Net, on the Impact, on our live stream that live in Georgia, get ready to vote January 5th. That is 4 days after New Year's. So y'all that go to church virtually, y'all have already shouted. Y'all have already done the hallelujah dance. Go vote. Y'all that watch night service virtually. Y'all that gonna get drunk and do the boogie woogie. Y'all sober up by January 1st, by January 5th. Because that will determine whether Mitch McConnell is still the majority leader who is blocking the George Floyd bill, blocking the John Lewis bill. People, now, let me tell you something. When you get in a jam that we're in, dealing with coming back from the bias and the things that this president has done, tried to tear down the Affordable Care, has reversed consent decrees all over the country where there's been a pattern of police abuse. All of these things that Biden-Harris need to reverse. We told y'all who Trump was. 1990, when they had mischarged 5 young black and brown men, said that they raped and viciously attacked a white female in Central Park, and it was a despicable act. And we stood up for them. One of them here this morning and here every Saturday, Senator Kerry White of the Exonerated 5, here every Saturday morning. Never forgotten, we stood up for them. Donald Trump bought ads in every paper calling for their execution. And one of the few bills Donald Trump paid, he paid for them ads. So we knew who he was. But I learned in Breadbasket coming up that when you are facing bias, there's 3 reactions. You can adjust, you can resent, or you can resist. Adjust. New segregation. Many blacks adjusted to it, Wes. Say we shouldn't be treated like this. They sit in the back of the bus. Well, the back of the bus go where the front is. That's adjustment. We should be able to eat in any restaurant. Well, I don't like the food anyway. Adjustment. Telling our children to adjust to what's going on wrong today in the education system. Adjust. Well, that's just the way it is. It doesn't have to be that way. Then others that don't adjust, resent, just mad. Thinking cussing at the television gonna change something. Having a fit, the tantrum gonna change something. I go to some rallies, Gwen and I, speakers up there just having a tantrum. Just calling everybody name, like they care about you calling them a name. And let me tell you this, you so-and-so, like they care about that. Matter of fact, they enjoy they got you angry. They know better than you how low down they are. But then there are those of us that are trained and skilled and strategic enough to resist. And the resistance movement holds people accountable. And those of us that have been shaped and molded in movements know how to do that. You know, it's like people that make, I was watching a guy once making cookies in a school. You know how they have these, what are they, platter, that you lay it out, you pour the certain element, and one makes this animal and the other. I was thinking about that and looking at my grandson. So you get an elephant cookie and you get a turtle cookie. It's all about where you pour the element in, the stuff you make cookies with. Well, some of us was poured in an environment that taught us how to resist. So it is against our nature to adjust, because we didn't come out that side of the pot. We were raised to believe that we could fight the powers of this world because we believe in another power. You get your Bible out. Give me Judges. You got Judges 16.
And it came to pass.
Go to the, what is it, fourth verse?
And it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek.
Now, we're talking about Samson. Samson was the strongest man in the world at this time. Had all power, could rip buildings down. Samson, awesome power. But he fell in love with a woman where?
In Sorek, whose name was Delilah.
Fell in love with Delilah. Not just liked it, fell in love. The reason why they call it fell in love. Difference between liking somebody and falling for somebody. Because if you fall for somebody, you may never get up. Read.
And the Lord of the Philistines came upon her and said unto her, entice him, and see wherein his great strength lieth.
The Philistines came to the woman he fell in love with and enticed her and told her to find out where his strength is. Now, hold it right there. One is you better be careful who you invest your love and trust in. Because once they have you, like Delilah was told, entice him and find out where his strength comes from. Read.
And by what means we may prevail against him,
And how we can beat him. Go ahead.
that we may bind him to afflict him, and we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver.
Now they're going to give her some money. Going to give her a position. Going to give her a job. Going to give her a contract. Whatever it is. Because she did not believe what Samson believed. But she could entice him because he fell in love with her. Some of you get hooked with people that are not like-minded. And they entice you to violate what your power comes from. Read.
And Delilah said unto Samson, tell me, I pray thee, wherein then thy strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee. And Samson said unto her, if they bind me with 7 withs, they will never be dried. And then they shall I be weak, and be so another man. Then the lords of the Philistines brought her unto 7 green withs, which had not been dried, and bound them with them.
So he told if they gave me the 7 width and they would not dry, this would take his strength. And they come in to do that, but what? That didn't work.
Now there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber. And they said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And then he brake the withs, as thread told is broken when touches the fire, so the strength was not known. And Delilah said unto Samson, behold, thou hast mocked me and told me lies.
Y'all told me a lie. You mocked me. You told me that if they did this, that would take you down. But that didn't work. You lied to me. Now she's working on his weakness, which is her. His weakness wasn't the Philistine. His weakness was his enticement with her. Read.
I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest bound be. And he said unto her, if thou bound me fast with new ropes, that they will never be occupied, then shall I be weak. And as another man, Delilah therefore took new ropes, and bound him wherewith, and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee now, Samson. And there were liars in wait abiding into the chamber, and they break them off his arms.
Here they go again. He fooled them again. Go ahead.
And Delilah said unto Samson, heareth thou hast mocked me and told me lies once again. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And said unto her, if thou weavest 7 locks in my head, like a web. And she fastened with a pin, and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awaketh out of his sleep, and went away to the pin of the beam, and then with the web. And she said unto him, how canst thou say, I love thee?
Now here comes the con.
When thine heart
How can you say you love me and not tell me the real source of your strength?
is, how can
There's
thou
going to be some time in your life that you're going to have to make a choice. And people that are on the other side, You in your own life that have to make spiritual choices. It is not going to come from your adversary or your enemy because you already don't trust them. It's going to come from those that appear to be on our side. That's going to entice us into giving up our power. That's why in my book I talk about latte liberals. It is those that pose to be progressive, that want to experiment with our children in the school. It is those that appear to be progressive, that want us to call police out their name rather than change the legislation. They act like they are more revolutionary than us and entice us to get us away from what gives us our power. Go ahead, read.
Verse 15 again, how canst say thou love me when thine heart is not with me? Thou hast mocked me 3 times, and hast told me wherein thy strength lieth. Verse 16, and it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him so that his soul was vexed unto death. Verse 17, that he told her that all his heart, and said unto her that have not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb.
Now, stop right there. He finally broke down after she daily mocked him, daily challenged him, and he broke down and told the secret of his power. But we all know the story about the hair, but we missed this part. That's why I wanted to read this morning. I'll let you go. He said that since I came from my mother's womb, my strength came from. I've always been a Nazarite. His strength comes from knowing who he was, knowing what he believed, knowing what he was grounded in, knowing that that is what gave him power. Too many get up in these offices and think that the office gave you your power. Your power is what puts you in the office. Your power don't come from your title. Your power comes from those that had to give you a title because of your power. That's why folks say when I got the show on MSNBC or when I got access to the White House, is Ray Miles still going to be up there on Saturday morning? I'm on MSNBC because I'm here on Saturday morning. My strength comes from being an activist. I am not some pundit or host. I'm an activist who know how to host. My power comes from a mother that made me go to Sunday school and taught me how to pray. And I prayed mama's prayer when I was in jail or in the White House, because my faith is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I know where my power lies. Whether Obama's in the White House or Trump's in the White House, I know where my power lies. God will take care of his children. If you don't forget where your power lies, my faith is built on that. Stand up, black man. They never thought that they would come after 4 years of Donald Trump that a black girl raised by a single mother that went to an HBCU college would be the vice president of the United States. But we know where our power lies. There's power. There's power. Wonder-working power. Election-turning power. In the blood. In the blood. In the blood of the Lamb. There's power. Wonder-working power. In the blood of the Lamb.
There is power, power, wonder-working power in the
Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Singing like you mean. Singing like you mean. We want justice. We want freedom. Got to have justice. I want to open the doors of the movement. There may be someone here today in the House of Justice that never joined the organization. If you're here, this is a great day for you to come and put your name on the roll and be part of one of our working committees. As we are active here in all kinds of areas, we need you to sign up and be a part of us. If you're here today and never joined National Action Network, come right to me and we'll sign you up right now. Come on, everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. Sing for Eric Garner. Sing for George Floyd, y'all. Everybody's singing. As we prepare to go off the radio. Civil rights didn't write your resume, but civil rights made somebody read your resume.